Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, it's Saturday, Films and Stuff. How are you today?
I am great, Ethan. How are you?
I'm great as well. And it's time for our weekly stream or skip segment. So without further ado, what were you responsible for watching this week?
So I saw Pieces of Her. Now, we joked about this. Yep, that's right. We joked about this last week. We weren't really sure what this was about. Based on the title alone, we thought it would be like some kind of rom-com, some kind of Hallmark-esque movie. And we could not have been more incorrect.
Is it like Dexter, where it's some guy who chops up women?
It's not even that. Even almost crazier. So I actually really liked it. I finished the series.
Whoa.
Yeah, I finished the series. I think this is going to be a mini series based on how it ended and based on the story. Like, I don't think that it's going to continue.
Okay.
Or at least if it does, like, it may be based on a book. I'm not 100% sure. So this show stars Toni Collette. So first of all, high praise there. Toni Collette's awesome.
High praise there.
And it's basically a story about her daughter, Toni Collette's daughter, and Toni Collette. The show does a very good job because you think that the show is going to be really about the daughter, but there's a very subtle shift over the first couple episodes that makes you realize that, oh, Toni Collette's daughter in this show isn't really the main protagonist. It's Toni Collette. Yeah. So the basic premise is you have Toni Collette's daughter, who is like a failed artist who used to live in New York City, and her mom gets sick. And so she's moved back to this really small town in middle America, this coastal town which nobody really knows about. Think like that very picturesque beach resort town. Mm-hmm. And she ends up staying there after her mom gets better. And she becomes like a police officer. And by a police officer, I mean like the community support guys who pick up the phone and answer the phone, like the 911 responders, etc. Okay. So she's working for them, and the episode or the series starts on her 30th birthday. Okay. They go to a restaurant to celebrate her birthday, and you find out that Toni Collette's actually kind of hard on her daughter. Like, oh, you need to figure out what you want to do. You're 30 years old. Mm-hmm. You can do anything. So she's kind of being supportive, but at the same time, she's also not being very supportive. Yeah. And then during this meal, a broken-hearted man shoots someone with a gun.
Like in the restaurant?
In the restaurant. And they become part of like this random mass shooting that you kind of hear about in American news. And because her daughter is wearing a uniform, the guy goes after her, a police uniform, the guy goes after her. Toni Collette then, who you think is just like this mom who's like this, who works for the VA, she's like a speech therapist, gets up and basically takes this guy down.
No way.
And she takes it down in the most badass way possible.
Like hands and fists and elbows and...
So the guy's gun jams or runs out of bullets. So she knocks the gun out of his hand. He picks up a knife and he goes to stab her, and she stops the knife with the palm. So like the knife goes through her palm. And then she does the most badass thing ever. With the knife still in her hand, she cuts his throat. She turns her palm around and she slices his throat and kills him. It's awesome. It's like a spectacular
Whoa. Thing. Liam Neeson type.
Very Liam Neeson. Very, Toni Collette, I haven't seen much of her work. I just know the work I have seen is stunning. I just don't see her as like an action-esque actor. No. But you start to think, whoa, who is this woman? I thought she was just this gentle, like, speech therapist at the VA, and you're just like wondering what's going on.
Oh, and this is like Lou. This is like Lou.
Kind of, but not really. Oh, man. And then there's a home invasion at the end of that episode because now her face is plastered all over the news for stopping this gunman.
Okay.
Then you find out that she's got a past. You know, like every mystery.
Oh, like nobody.
So it feels like that. You find out that she's got a past. And then so the way I looked at it was, based on just the first 3 episodes alone, this is a must subscribe.
I'm in. What is it? It's Netflix, yeah?
Netflix. So based on just the first 3 episodes, I was in. I have to say, though, based on seeing the whole series now, I downgraded it to a mooch.
Oh.
It's still very good. I still recommend you watch it, especially if you have Netflix.
Yep.
I think that the first 3 or 4 episodes are so strong and the mystery is so enticing. It harkens back a little bit to The Tourist, which you recommended a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. I love The Tourist.
You know there's a mystery afoot. You don't know what it is. The advantage that The Tourist had was 2 things. One, even the protagonist didn't really know what was going on because his memory was lost. And 2, when you do uncover that mystery, it's actually very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
This one, the reveal is slightly less compelling. It's still very compelling overall, but it's just slightly less, high octane.
Yeah. Can I say that Toni Collette, I think, is near royalty when it comes to these like mini series or like 1-season shows. Remember she is in The Staircase as Peterson's wife. She is, I think, not so well known for like a single movie type role, although I could see her in like Marvel as kind of like a law enforcement person, or Amanda Waller from like Suicide Squad.
She was very popular in Hereditary, which came out like 3-4 years ago. That was like a great movie for her, and she was also phenomenal in Knives Out. First,
you told me, yeah. But I feel like she is exceptional in these like 1 or 2 season like shows where it's a very nuanced character, and it needs someone who plays a lot of different angles, and you're not sure if you can really pin her down in terms of what she is, right?
Because she, like as an actor, most of her work is a slow burn. Mm-hmm. Like whether it's over the course of a movie or whether it's a course over of a series, it's like, there's something there. It's definitely can burn you. There's definitely a fire. It's smoldering, but really you have to let her go at it at her pace, because she knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
And I think this show, for example, is a great example.
Who's the daughter? Who's her daughter in this?
I don't know her. I didn't recognize her. Not a name that stuck out to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And in fact, in the cast, I think her daughter...
Bella Heathcote? I don't know who that is.
The character herself, she was very good, but the character herself annoyed me the most.
Oh.
She was one of those people who's really slow to act. You see an assault, you're supposed to stop it, but you're kind of like deer stuck in headlights kind of thing.
Yeah.
In these kinds of things, that as a character trait, that's a big flaw, and I'm not a fan of that flaw.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, so that's so it's really a mooch at the end, but it's started off as a must.
It started off so strong. And I have to say, its ending, maybe the last episode, also was very strong. It wavered a little bit through, but you're not ever going to think, oh, why am I watching this? It's really good.
And that's it. It's one and done, right? 1 season, it's done.
I'm pretty sure. And I think you'll agree with me once you watch it.
Yeah, just like Michael Peterson or Staircase. Okay. Wow, great. Great. Another really good find.
So we are going back to your show that you watched 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, which inadvertently I started it, and then it was formally assigned to me. I had Yellowjackets, which is on Showtime, but somehow it's on Hulu as well. And for me, I give this a must subscribe. And let me tell you the premise. The premise is, first of all, this was filmed in 2020 and it was released in November 2021. And I read a lot of pieces about how this was kind of filmed during COVID. So there was a big gap in the filming, and now apparently season 2 has been greenlit, and there absolutely needs to be a season 2. I'm 100% in on season 2. It's set in the modern day with a group of, as you called them, literal soccer moms, women who are celebrating their 25th high school anniversary. So that puts them at kind of like 43 to 45 years old, somewhere in there. They've all got either families, kids, addictions, divorces, and so forth behind them. And we learned that in 1996, they were part of a high school girls soccer team. They were state champions. They were going to fly to the national tournament, which I guess was in Seattle. And one of the fathers of one of the girls was quite wealthy. He had a private jet. And, he let the girls take his jet to the Nationals in Seattle. The plane crashed, and they were stuck in the wilderness for about 19 months. And what's interesting about this show is it is probably 50% flashbacks to the, I want to say adventures, but it's more like the challenges and the survival in the wilderness for those 19 months, and 50% in the future, in the present, in terms of how they've kind of overcome the trauma that they experienced, why their relationships with each other are the way that they are. In some cases, they're very strong. In some cases, they're not. And there's also kind of like a modern twist to it in terms of someone who's kind of coming and, wants to dig up the past, and they're trying to obviously, keep whatever happened during that survival in the wilderness, behind them. And there's, in the first few episodes, you start to see the dynamics, and there's something really, really interesting about this, which is, like with all probably like girls' athletic teams or any athletic team, there's kind of the alphas, the very, very strong people, the captains, the best player, the leaders, and so forth. And then there's kind of the non-alphas, which are, people who do not play a lot, people who are not considered strong, people who are, supporting. They play that up very, very heavily at the beginning. And I assume it's going to be because a lot of those roles are going to be reversed or changed or questioned, once you see them in the wilderness. So I'm not going to give too much away, but it's really interesting the way that they've set this up, kind of 50-50. In terms of cast,
All-star cast, yeah?
Christina Ricci is in it, an unrecognizable Christina Ricci. Also Juliette Lewis, who is more of a name to me and a face I recognize, but I can't actually tell you anything else that she's been in. Those are probably the...
Oh, man. Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
Strange Days. Yeah.
Those are probably the two biggest names. But I have to say, I came across it kind of by accident, and it's exceptional. For me, it's an absolute must subscribe. And I cannot wait until season 2 comes out.
Yeah, so based on your enthusiasm for it, I too saw 3 episodes so far, and I will 110% be completing this.
Wow.
The first episode, as it started, I was a bit like, oh man, like what are we doing here? Why are we watching this? Because there were no flashbacks yet, and some flashbacks were, about, again, this girls' soccer team.
Yeah.
Nothing super exciting, nothing super intriguing to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you see the plane go down and you understand that there's definitely more than meets the eye, especially with Melanie Linsky's character. And I really like Melanie Linsky.
Yeah.
And
Shauna Shipman. Yeah.
The senator, right? Tasia, the state senator.
Yeah.
When you see that there's more to it there, I started getting intrigued. And then the way the second episode ends with Christina Ricci, I was like, I am in. I am 100% in.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're exactly right. Probably the first 15 minutes, you're like, why am I watching this movie about, like married women, and their
Like
their
some of
daily
them are in
routine
bad
and-
marriages,
Yeah.
etc. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me. They don't seem very happy.
You're
Fine,
right.
this is probably a very common trope,
Yeah.
but it didn't do anything.
Yeah. I agree. But after the first episode, I was like, whoa, like I'm 100% in. And after 2, I was just going back to back, and I pounded through that season, and I was definitely wanting more. So that is an absolute subscribe for me. That's Yellowjackets. And then Pete, you had Pieces of Her, which is a mooch, but it tickled.
But it's really a
subscribe.
strong mooch. I mean, if we had pluses and minus, this would be a mooch plus.
Mooch
or
plus.
like a subscribe minus. But obviously we don't do that for obvious reasons. So yeah.
So so that means like if you know someone, a regular mooch is like you have a friend who's got a subscription and you mooch it. A mooch plus means you know someone. They're not really a friend, but you kind of like make them your friend because you know they've got a subscription, right? That's what the mooch plus is.
Or you have the platform and you wouldn't normally look at this.
Yeah.
You should watch this.
You're like, hey, Pete, long time. Hey, what are you doing tomorrow? You mind if I come over? I thought maybe we could watch some TV. And I'm like, who is this?
It's like the new version of a multi-level marketing scam.
Means. That's what a mooch plus means.
Yeah. So but in any case, both are highly recommended.
Yeah.
Even if the score doesn't reflect it, I still think both are highly recommended. And what's a mooch to me may very well be a subscribe to you. And genuinely speaking, up until 2 days ago, I was flip-flopping between subscribe and mooch. But I just had to be a little bit practical about the reveal. I thought, and I think it's only because we saw The Tourist so recently. Had I not seen The Tourist, I think this probably would have been a subscribe.
I mean, that reminds me, I need to finish off The Tourist. We've been watching so much good stuff that I haven't gotten back to The Tourist. But to be honest, that's absolutely on my list of things that I need to, continue and watch. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like
your show and assignment, but I'm going to confirm that it's something you need to finish.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when we've got a lot of stuff to watch, but there's also a separate list, which is stuff that, we need to finish. And there's, kind of like a standby list, and that's absolutely on mine.
Yeah.
Should we roll our virtual dice and see what we've got?
Of course. So
as always, you're a little bit ahead of the game. You have pre-rolled for us, but we'll keep the suspense nevertheless.
You shall be watching on Paramount Plus Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Ooh, I'm always excited for a Star Trek. All right.
And I think you'll be happy with it. And I'm actually the reason I put this on your list as well is because I don't remember if you've been an avid Star Trek watcher of the younger generations, like TNG, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, or even the original series.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched any of the modern Star Trek shows, except for Lower Decks. There's Discovery, there's...
I've seen Discovery, yeah.
So there's a couple of these new ones that I haven't seen anything about. But this show, from what I've heard, is meant to be a slight reboot in the sense that it predates Captain Kirk. And B, it's supposed to be quite good because it doesn't have any baggage around it. So like a lot of the other Star Trek shows right now have baggage. I think this show is kind of free of that.
Do you think it's worthwhile? Because I have to say, I love Star Trek, but I have to say, I'm going to guess there's 7 different Star Trek kind of, not franchises, but branches.
Shows?
Yeah,
there's the, off the top of my head, original show. So the original series with Shatner.
Yeah.
You have Picard's TNG. Then you have Voyager with Janeway. You have Deep Space Nine. I think those were so those were the shows, I'm pretty sure, from the late 90s,
There's
early
like
2000s.
An Enterprise as
you
well,
had
right?
Enterprise with Scott Bakula. That was the last one that I saw, and I kind of washed my hands of it from there. After that, I think they took quite a long break before they
Yeah,
released
then
more
there's
shows.
Discovery, which I thought
Then
was
you-
great, by the way. Yeah.
You have Discovery, which is of now the quote-unquote modern branch. So you have
Yeah.
Discovery, and then you have a few animated shows. You
There's
have Strange New
Picard.
Worlds.
Yeah, there's Picard.
Picard, which I don't consider Star Trek any longer, unfortunately.
It is.
We can do an episode of that as well, but like it's crazy. You've got Picard, and then you've got the animated shows. You've got Star Trek Prodigy. You've got Lower Decks. Lower Decks, I think, is by and far the best of the recent, and in fact, one of the best Star Trek shows I've seen, period.
Yeah.
And then
you've got a bunch of, that doesn't even count a bunch of movies, right?
Yeah,
7
that's right.
movies? 6 movies.
So the original series, I think they had 5 films. I think it ended on 5. It might have been 6, actually. Then you had 4 Next Generation movies.
Yeah.
The 3 Kelvin timeline movies with the Chris Pine. And the 4th one got canceled.
We almost need a Star Wars episode or a Star Trek episode where we can just kind of like sort through all of this.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I've picked up a bunch of stuff. Like, I remember, Deep Space Nine. I remember Voyager. I did get into Discovery. Can't remember Enterprise specifically. Watched a few of Picard. None of the animated. It wouldn't be bad, even for me, to kind of like go through and sort them out in terms of timelines and stuff.
Yeah. So the advantage you have with the Strange New Worlds is that this canonically should be the very first show in terms of chronological. Okay. So that way, that's why I meant there's no baggage, really.
What does TNG stand for?
The Next Generation.
Oh, yeah. That's the one with that's the one with Picard as...
That's right. That's the Enterprise D with Picard
Professor
and
X.
so forth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what you're watching.
I've got Star Trek SNW Strange New Worlds.
And I've got a show on Amazon I've never heard of, but you put on the list. Tales from the Loop.
I'm so happy for this. You know why? Because this pops up on Amazon all the time for me. And it seems to be in our wheelhouse as a sci-fi something.
Okay.
But I never did anything about it. So I'm really happy that you're going to be watching it so that I don't have to. Tell me if it's good.
Okay. Happily. I've absolutely no idea what the show is. I've not even seen a single advertisement for it, to be honest. So it
pops up on my Amazon homepage all the time. Although, to be honest, I have to say, tell me if I'm wrong here. Amazon doesn't really have a whole lot of new stuff, does it?
No, again, it is not my go-to platform when I sit down to watch any kind of TV show.
I mean, I think they spent, this isn't true, of course, but I think that they spent all their money on Thursday Night Football and Rings of Power.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost $15 billion between the two of those programs.
Yeah. But I have to say, just when I like refresh my Amazon page, it's the same stuff that I've seen more than once. So let's see. I'm happy for you to watch it.
Absolutely. I'll give you a report on it next week.
Okie dokie. That sounds great. So that is this week's episode, Stream or Skip. We've got 2 definite streams. Tune in next week and we'll have some more.
That's right. And if you've got more shows you want us to watch, reach out to us. Leave a comment below this video. Send us an email, aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com. Or even easier, send us a tweet at F&S Podcast.
Pete, thank you. Have a great day. Listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Ethan. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.